Happy Independence Day in advance to everybody who is watching the show today, right? And that reminds me of one keyword, right? Independence. And who doesn't want that, right? We always needed that, so we got it, right? After a lot of effort. Similarly, when you want independence in your career, in your profession, you have to work hard, right? It is not easy. So what we thought is that why not talk about some of the experiences that one of our guests today is having around turning himself from 9 to 5 job, being dependent to some extent, to being his own boss, independent, running his own thought process, running his company, running his programs, and everything else, right? So let's hear from him, his story in his own way. Perfect. So I'm gonna bring him onto this show. So Hari, welcome to Data Ki Baat, and I'm gonna give it to you so that you can run this from your story standpoint and how did you made it, all of those that everybody wants to hear today. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Sanjeev, and happy Independence Day in advance to all of our audience. Right? My name is Hari Kiran, and so the Datapreneur when we spoke about and we uh, chiseled this the talk with Data Ki Baat and Sanjeev, right? So we came up with why 9 to 5 is such a cool thing, and why some of these stuffs and all, right? And before even we get into the talk, and then I mean, exchange some of my thoughts around it, right? I don't want to start any of my presentations without this thank you, right? This goes without saying, yeah. We just can't thank them enough. Through the tough times have been difficult. Their dedication towards work did not even shake a bit, right? I really, really appreciate all the work some of our COVID warriors have put in, right? So thank you from the bottom of my heart, right? And a little about me, right? Now, this is me. My name is Hari Kiran. No, I always say, I'm an accidental IT guy. We'll not get into that story today, but we'll save that for another day, right? And I also have the Slonic, which is the the elephant that we often look around in the PostgreSQL ecosystem, right? The reason why I have Slonic on my slide is just that I really really love PostgreSQL and open source ecosystem, right? So that's one of the reasons I have this as part of my screen, or my part of introduction, I would say, right? And from a favorite quote standpoint, right? So there are quite a few quotes that I tend to read every now and then, churn that particular stuff, and take some knowledge out of that quote, right? But one of these quotes is, the ship in harbor is safe, and but that's not what ships are built for, by John, is something which struck me, and I'd always put it, right. So getting out of our comfort zones, right, is the key for experiencing new things, right, broadening our horizons and taking the risks that help us grow as people, right. So that's why I'd say you got to go through to get through, right. So I slightly transformed that code to fit me and my persona, I would say, right. And to the topic, today's topic, why we are trying to look at both the sides of the coin, right? A 9 to 5 job versus an entrepreneurial slash solopreneurial stuff, right? And I would like to share some of my thoughts around how I had looked at the 9 to 5 stuff, right? And how I looked at some of the some of the experiences that I could grab from the 9 to 5 system that we have, right? So 9 to 5 is relatively risk free, right? No, we all have seen that our fathers and grandfathers have experienced this, right? I'm sure there are quite a few business families that are there who still look at their businesses as a 9 to 5, right? So if you put across, relatively risk free, and it senses or gives you a sense of comfort, right? A pretty comfortable place to be. And then you have any day, any working day, you go in, come out and stuff, right? So on the other side of it, right, the flip of the coin, so there is a resistance to change, right? Now, when you are in your 9 to 5, right, when you are in your 9 to 5 job, there is a slight resistance to change, right? Not change to a different job, different domain, different technology, be it whatever it is, right? And the opportunities that come and hit you when you are in your 9 to 5 jobs, right? So they are a slightly less opportunities, I would call, right? And 9 to 5 is a super cool thing, right? It just really works cool, and works for all of us, all of the people who are doing it, right? And I've done that for a long time in my career, right? So if I look at my career progression, right? So I started at General Electric India, right? So we had something called as GIIC, General Electric India Innovation Center. That's where my data journey started, in the early 2007 and 2008, right? And I started as an Oracle database engineer, right? And slowly moved to Microsoft SQL technologies. And in late 2009, I joined Enterprise DB, right? Which was pioneering the PostgreSQL development and open source evangelism at that point of time, right? That's when I got introduced to the world of PostgreSQL, right? And I just fell in love with the awesome world of open source and especially PostgreSQL, right? And I never looked back after that, right? And there were a few opportunities which came in, and that took me to places, right? And after EDB, I joined Oracle Corporation, right, where I was taking care of the entire P6 Primavera product of Oracle, right, which is whole and solely into project and portfolio management, right. That's my first bit of introduction to the entire cycle of the product development, right. Now, starting from ideating to taking the product live, right. With that experience, I went to the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and joined a few startups, started working with a few startups, and got introduced to the startup ecosystem per se, right? And the startup ecosystem at that point of time in early 2011, 12 was just blossoming like anything in the Bay Area, right? And I was fortunate enough to have a pretty close view at how the startups work and all of that, right? And I came back to India and joined Optum, right? In Optum Technology, which is part and parcel of United Health Group, right? And that's where I got introduced to the healthcare IT and the healthcare product development per se, right? And at Optum, we built an enterprise healthcare platform, for US HIEs, right? The HIEs are the health information exchanges, right? And we had a super cool product and a platform available. And as part of my the entrepreneurial, right, so the entrepreneurial zeal I had in my 9 to 5 job itself, right. I had the audacity to go to the Indian leadership teams and say, hey, we have a product, right? So a HIE product is available, right? Why not do the same thing in India, right? And that's exactly when Mr. Narendra Modi, our then and our current Prime Minister, right, envisioned about coming up with a pan-India healthcare platform, right, which was called as IHIP, right? And we went all guns blazing. We presented it to the government of India, and I still call that as one of my sweet failures, because We could not back the project. No, Optum couldn't back the project, but I took a lot of pride in learning the entire ecosystem, right? The entire end to end of how do you look at a product? How does your users look at a product? Still being in my 9 to 5 job, right? So that healthcare ecosystem exposure gave me a lot of experience into the end to end look of how a customer looks at a product, how the employees of a company look at that product, how a solutions architect look at a product, right? And my last job, which was at second quadrant, which is now called as, which is part of Enterprise DB Corporation, right? I had an amazing tenure at second quadrant, right? So I had a ringside view to look at 360-degree view of the entire business model, right? At second quadrant, I wore a lot many hats than a solutions architect, right? So it was a multifaceted job that I had, and also gave me a lot of freedom and explore my entrepreneurial pieces, no entrepreneurial scope of the job, right? And there were opportunities that came along, right? So I traveled a lot, met a lot of customer teams, right? And got to know about how the product adoptions, right, the database and the open source ecosystems adoption would take, right? I was still there in my 9 to 5 job, but what I had was a complete ringside view of how the core data people, right, the folks that are working on the databases and the data look at PostgreSQL, right? Look at the open source, look at the data per se, right? And on the other hand, I was also into the technical sales standpoint, right? So like I said, I wore multiple hats when I was in that organization. So being a technical sales, no, I used to talk to a lot of CXOs, right? So their thought process, or their view of looking at the things, right? So the 10,000 feet overview of how a business could be run, right? How a business could be run profitably, right? So what is the total cost of ownerships, the TCOs, the ROIs, no, all of these things came to me at while interacting with these CXOs that are part and parcel of our customer base, right? And working directly with the CXOs also built their customer success and customer engagement models, right? So you talk to a customer at a very very initial stage, right, at your pre-sales, and I was also part of onboarding the customer, when we were bringing those customers onto our platforms, and then providing our services, right? So within your 9 to 5, if you have got opportunities to go ahead and explore out of your boundary, I would say that's the best possible launching pad for you to have a solopreneurship or an entrepreneurship at the back of your minds, right? And currently now I'm the principal at Open Source DB Private Limited, which is a PostgreSQL services plus data science as a services company, right? So we are trying to provide services on data sciences, data analytics using PostgreSQL, and on some of the technologies that are predominantly available in the data ecosystem, right? So that's something which helped me a lot, right? So all of the chunks of the knowledge bits that I grabbed from the Oracle Corp, from my the starter ecosystem experiences, from the Optum, right? And summing up at the entrepreneurship that I had with a second quarter, right? That helped me transform from the 9 to 5 job to the current solopreneurship that I am going ahead and doing, right? So no, what would have happened, if you are a solopreneur, what was my experience being into the solopreneurship, right? It's not a complete just you versus the world, right? So it's a lot more than being a solopreneur, right? So many solopreneurs work from home, and especially given the ongoing public health crisis, right? But working for home not too long can be very isolating, right? Not just for the solopreneurs, but also the nine to five jobs, right? So you just don't talk about stopping the buck at certain point of time, right? So you just go on bang bang bang, till the last hour of the day, all right? And being a solopreneur, you will have that a sense, right? You will have that purpose of the business perspective, right? You need to interact with a lot of the guys to understand, have a better understanding of the local startup scene, right? And to identify some of your potential partners and competitors, right? So you could go ahead and look at it as a mix of your career and business, right? And like I said, the art of balancing act is nothing but you got to look at some of the nuances being a solopreneur, right? So you got to have some cadence, some cognizance around how much of time is spent on a specific thing, right? And what else I felt being a solopreneur, it's just endless freedom, that freedom came with a lot of responsibility to run the customer deployments, to run some of the customer projects that I have had, right? And I had one clear mission and vision, right? Without any compromise, right? So I wanted to be there in the database services, right? So that was my machine. And the vision I wanted to be is I wanted to be some of the last mile enablers, right? So I'm a big fan of a last mile enabler because that's somewhere which is pretty close to my heart, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, being a last mile enabler, right? And a slight, a simple story about being a solopreneur, that I took a lot of it, right? So I keep asking my question, right? So had I not quit my job that day, what would have happened, right? Had I not quit, I would have either promoted in the same company, right? Or jumped to a new role, and I would have taken up more responsibility in the same company. I would have headed the APAC business, being in the same company, right? But because I quit, right, I don't make that much for myself, right? Now, but I will be able to go ahead and offer, with work with my partners, work with other consultants that work with me, right? Now I would be able to go ahead and bring about the value to my customer and the staff that is working with me, right? Another very important point is I would have never left my manager to decide, right, what I would earn in the next year, right, based on my judgment during the appraisal, right? But because I had quit, right, I decide my fate forever, right? Period. Right. So I just decided. I work like a beast. I work like to grow the every year on year, right? And I don't look to please anyone but my customers, right? I don't need to please anybody else other than my customers, right? And one other piece that I always look at, right? So because I quit, I found myself, my strengths, I would say, right? I would also look at my weaknesses also, right? Some of the weaknesses in getting this stuff done, delegating my stuff, which I'm working on, right? And my dream and purpose, right? And I learned that the success is not being seen happy by others, right, around you, right? But feeling content deep within, right? So that's something which I had learned a lot out of this solopreneurship, right? And success is complete control over the fear of failure that I have had. That's something I'm personally experiencing a lot of it, right? Being a solopreneur. And to enable my solopreneurship, that helped me, right? So all of these some of the things that helped me, right? are some things like related to the enablers, I call them, right? So these are the enablers which helped me to come right on track, right? If I am swerving away from a different track, right? So one of the stuff that I always look at is the technology, right? Pick up and choose the right technology, right? Technology is your best friend as a solopreneur, right? Tech related investments hold a lot of key value component, right? I mean, what I did was invested in building a strong brand for myself, right? And wherever you can, go ahead and outsource some of the services that you could pick up a right partner, right legal aspect, right CA firms and stuff like that. All right. And the next enabler I would call it is the KRS and the KPIs, right? So it goes without a saying, right? KRS may be your review areas, may be internal or external to your customers also, right? Move toward realizing your longer term of vision, right? Don't just have that tunnel vision syndrome, and just do not restrict yourself, right? And with your KRS and KPIs, by setting KPIs, you will be able to enabling your ecosystem to make some smart business decisions, right, about the direction of where you want to go, and where you are with the current projects and the engagement model, and how do you go ahead and take a look at it, right? And again, and another enabler I found a lot of interest with is the Startup India campaign, right? Which is from the Department of Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade, right? So Startup India gives you a lot of resources, both from customer connections, right? A lot of networking that happens, a lot of social commerce that comes into your picture, right? I use a lot of LinkedIn, right? We are doing the LinkedIn live this show also, right? So I use a lot of these social commerce channels to go ahead and interact with my friends, my ex colleagues, share a lot of stuff with where we are going, and what's happening in the current startup ecosystem, right? So these are some of the enablers that helped me in going from transitioning from that 9 to 5 system to the solopreneurship, and to the next avenues that I would like to go ahead and take it, right? And at the end, I just wanted to mention that we had a conversation with Data Baat and Sanjeev, right? So we wanted to come up with an idea of the master class, right? So the master class is purely focusing on the data evangelism, being a datapreneur yourself, and the data science, that, right? And because I come from the PostgreSQL ecosystem, and then spent a lot of decent time in PostgreSQL ecosystem, we wanted to call this as Postgres for data science, right? What we will be talking in that master class, right? So the power of SQL, right? Some of the super cool concepts and the software utilities that are available, right? For example, the Apache Martlab, right? Or the MindsDB, which is there, which has that auto ML component, right? MindsDB is an open source a software that is available, right? Again, it's the ecosystem where you will have the capabilities to just be in your PostgreSQL database and able to go ahead and do a lot of auto ML and stuff, right? And we will be talking about a lot of ML technologies, and what are some of the flexible options we could use, right? Depending on what data sets you have in place, right? And whenever you're talking about PostgreSQL and TensorFlow, the whole data science ecosystem, the analytics piece of it, the machine learning piece of it is goes without saying, right? So that's the master class we have. And see, depending on the availability, Sanjeev would talk a lot about the master class, and see how we go about. Sanjeev, you are on mute.
Yes, I am, because I was so engrossed into this conversation, Hari. It is amazing. So, guys, we must thank Hari for his time today, because he has really done a lot of hard work behind putting this thought process together. But I want to tell you the story. I am no fortune teller, but I think I was talking to him and I told that in 2007, when I first met him, on the same job, I used to be a DBA and he was also a DBA joining. And I always had that thought that is this guy is going to probably be much more better when he is on his own. I mean, I'm telling you, that was my feeling, because when I used to interact with him, he would always come up with a very different ideas and thoughts. He would question the status quo. He wouldn't take uh, a rule of thumb, right? Because it's not rebellious. It's basically questioning that, okay, why, if we are doing certain things, that we should continue to do the same thing again and again? Why can't we change something, and so on and so forth? He always had that thought. Probably that made him switch a couple of times, which I think you can see from his career. But that's for his good, because he got the breadth of the experience working on those area. He has basically made himself kind of transformed to a T-shaped professional, as I call it. So I think that's great. This masterclass is, you can call it a brainchild of both of us, because we were thinking that we always talk about data science in perspective, in the concept, in the ideas of Python, and then so many things which is like so popular. But why not in the terms of database, right? PostgreSQL is open source database, world's favorite, famous. How can we do, and what can we do on those area, and pull people, data scientists interest or data analyst interest, and then see that if we can bring some knowledge that he has collected over the time, and I can also punch in some data evangelism out there, and we can come up with something useful for the community. And that was the entire thought process. So you look for that announcement, and something in future that we'll do. Okay, so in the meantime, I think we have got a lot of interactions out there. I mean, I take a note. I have put a lot of takeaway that I have learned over the time. I think there are some good words for you over there from Howard Diesel from South Africa. He's my very, very good friend from the data community. He was really happy and amazed by what you just shared. He says that there are many opportunities in life, and then I think we had a conversation around how we should be able to probably practice in making those choices, so that we kind of become perfect in doing that and do a best choice for us. That's what Hari, you did when you really shift from 9 to 5 to. So I think you've shared all of the stories that I think you wanted to.
Yes.
Personally, me, right? I really wanted to ask you a couple of questions, that how easy and difficult is to really keep performing while you're thinking about transitioning to do your own business or your own company or your own organization. Right. I mean, you have to keep doing the justice, right? You can't just leave your dream and not do the right things that you have to do while you are dreaming about your future.
Right. So what I would say is, whenever you're looking at the transition itself, right, from your 9 to 5 to the solopreneurship, what I would say is, look at some of the opportunities that you already have, right? Take as less problem statements as possible, that you can add a lot of value with, right? And go ahead and try to tackle one single problem at a time, right? And because you are the only guy working for yourself, you will have an overwhelming set of tasks, right? And the one of the best techniques that I tend to follow is to time box all of my tasks too, right? So time boxing is something which I really look at, and there's a concept called as planning fallacy, right? It's a tendency to think things will take less time than they do actually, right? So that's, I mean, I was a prey to that planning fallacy for a long time, right? And then I looked at this time boxing piece, right? And then just focus on one single task at that point of time, right? And try to tackle that at that without being going and overwhelmed with other stuff you have in place.
Perfect. No, great answer. I think the idea of time boxing is definitely I think important, because oftentimes I feel that you get lost into this whole, probably suppose you want to search for something on the internet, and then when you go search for that one concept, you keep on moving, and you basically lose the last one that you really wanted to search for, and you get into the probably rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
So if you have to really box it at how long you want to do, and then if not, then what you will do next, rather than getting more into it and then realizing that at the end you did not achieve anything out of that whole job or task in hand. That's very cool. That's very important, time boxing, right? Perfect. So I think we are very close on time here, Hari. I think I am not seeing any further questions. Any book that you inspire? Any book that inspires you, Hari? That's a question from Hemant Gupta.
I'm a big fan of Robin Sharma, right? And I really love the book, which is like, be in the 5 a.m. club, right? I'm an early riser. So
Mhm.
I really love that book, the 5 a.m. club from Mr. Robin Sharma.
Great. Yep. I think everybody has got 24 hours. Being a early riser,
Right.
being early riser definitely gives edge over the others, because
Yeah.
we all have 24 hours, and if you're rising early, you have some sweet time which probably other may not have, because they might be sleeping, which is good. You got to
Yeah.
sleep as well, but if you really want to do something more, then you have to probably be early. I think someone told me, right, Sanjeev, you have to learn to manufacture time. I think that
Yep.
always
Yep.
resonate me. Always, right? You see the word, right? Manufacture time.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's
Yep.
the
Yep.
very insightful.
Makes a lot
So
of sense.
yeah, I think great. I'm so glad that we could do this. I appreciate all your effort. I know we had a couple of rounds around preparation. The story has to come out, and so on and so forth. You have an amazing story, Hari, and I think you have an amazing future in this whole entrepreneurship journey. So I appreciate you so much.
Thanks a lot,
Okay.
Sanjeev bhai.
Perfect. Thank you. Take care. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I will just say one more time, Happy Independence Day in advance. Please do enjoy and think about it, that independence is not about leaving your job or what you're trying to do. It's about keeping your thought on the table, and making the habit of keeping that every time, right? It's not about 95 or entrepreneurship. It's about your freedom of expression. I think that's what the precursor of people either doing it or not doing it, right? So I believe in that. We are not advocating you leave your job. What we are saying is that you become a thought leader, you share your thoughts, do not afraid of sharing what you think, and so on and so forth. So all the best. Thank you very much for watching this show.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Sanjeev.